Hello, my friend, and welcome to Secure and Insecure of me, Johnny Seifert. This is a celebrity mental health podcast that I say it's okay to not be okay. And if you have the same match to me, whether you're watching or listening, click that subscribe button, leave a 5-star rating and a review, and let's keep spreading the word. It's okay to not be okay. And let me tell you about my guest today. Now, as it's Christmas, I wanted to do another book club where we celebrate the best Christmas authors of our era. Now, my guest today has been on Sukininski before. I absolutely love her books twice a year in the summer and at Christmas. And she does that thing where she just gets you hungry, hungry to go to another country, hungry to eat, whether it's ham, whether it's smoked salmon, whether it's cake, or now chocolate. And it's her new book, Joe Thomas, A Recipe for Christmas, that you have to go and buy now. And what we're going to do in the book club, as you know, we're going to look at the mental health themes behind the novel. So without further ado, I'm delighted to welcome to Sukininski here. It's Joe Thomas. Hello, Joe.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Well, I would love to say thank you for being here. However, Lakritz by Barlow, that did the best chocolates. I was reading a book. I was like, "Do you know what? I need some chocolates." So I went and bought these chocolate licorices, and this is one tub. I had three, and this has been 2 weeks of eating it whilst I've been reading a book. Awkward.
They look
These are
amazing.
amazing. These are amazing. Lakritz by Barlow, go and buy them. They're amazing. And in Harvey Nichols, they've got they're doing a dessert at the moment, a chocolate tart with the licorice in it. Oh, it's amazing. Amazing.
Well, I went and did a lovely event in a bookshop in Narberth the other day, and we did a chocolate tasting of all local chocolate makers. And we had, some actually the two that came out on top were two women chocolate makers, which was really quite fun to see the difference. And so yeah, I've been doing a lot of chocolate with this book.
Well, that because your book every year, for those who've never read your book, it's always you go to another country and there's always food, and this one is all about chocolate. So let's start with what is the book, A Recipe for Christmas, all about, Joe?
As you know, say all my books start with food at the heart of them because that's my big love is food and how it makes you feel. And I've been wanting to do a chocolate book for a while, but it had to be the right story at the right time. And eventually I thought, yeah, I've got to start for this book. And so obviously it had to be Switzerland for chocolate. And I went and had the most fantastic research trip. I went with my son. And the thing is, as I've always said, is that when you find the food of a place, it takes you by the hand and introduces you to the people, to the culture, to the history. And it was exactly that when we got to Geneva. We got to Geneva and we did chocolate tours, and it took us by the hand, and you followed the footsteps through the town, and you were just told all the history of this place through chocolate. So I knew that I wanted to put chocolate at the heart of the book. And I wanted to look at, chocolate is a really serious business. Whilst we love it as a sweet treat and whatever, it's a serious business. And the people at the top, the master chocolatiers, it's really serious. And big business, competing business. So I wanted to take a character who sort of had a lovely idea about going to Switzerland. She is making a big step. She's stepping outside her comfort zone and going to move in with her boyfriend, who she hasn't been together with very long, and she's met online, but they've almost met and they're doing the relationship backwards because these days people are meeting online. You might live at different ends of the country, you meet up for the weekend, but you're not actually slowly getting to know each other face to face. So she agrees to go to Switzerland with him, and she enrolls in a chocolate making course, which she thinks is going to be rather lovely and sweet in a chalet up in the mountains. And it turns out to be chocolate boot camp. And tests her all the way, but she's not a quitter, and she gets stuck in. And there's a lot of rivalry within the people on the course. And of course, she has to look at her own life and her own relationship and starts to analyze where she is and what she wants from life through chocolate and making her own signature box. And so she is telling her own story through food, through chocolate.
Perfect summary. There you go. And there's no
Sorry, was that
spoilers
a
in
bit
there.
long?
I'm glad that you did that, not me, because I'd have gone, wow, nah. And it's funny because when we think of Forrest Gump, that classic line of life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And that defines the book. And what I love about the book, especially, is it builds up to these 12 days of Christmas chocolates, which each chocolate represents a feeling, an emotion, or an experience that one's had. And you start eating chocolate, you're like, oh, I'm not just picking it. And it's funny, I got sent a box of brownies last week, and they were all Christmassy decorated, really small ones. And suddenly I closed my eyes, and suddenly I was going, right, what am I tasting? Whereas before, I was like, well, I've had my sandwich, had my crisp, just have a brownie for dessert. Didn't even think about it. And now you're making me really think about those experiences. So let's start with a quote from page 52 of your book. And
Okay.
the quote says, how would you describe me? Well, I think I'm like a crunchy bar, golden and bubbly, a party on the tongue. You see, you're fun, hopeful, sunny. That's a good choice. You can do this. You already put yourself into a chocolate. So, Joe, first question is, what type of chocolate would you be?
Oh, I think that probably might be me, a crunchy bar. Oh, now a double decker. Now a double decker, you've got two sides to it, haven't you? Do you remember the double deckers?
Yeah, yeah, they
Um,
still exist.
oh, the sixes. So, you've got the crunchy, kind of like feisty side, and the soft, gooey topping, all wrapped up in chocolate. So maybe I might be a double decker. Um, Yeah, I think, yeah, layers. See, a Mars bar is layers, isn't it? It's not just one chocolate. It's soft nougat with caramel all wrapped up in chocolate. Quite like the idea of that. Have I got to pick one?
You can pick as many you want. You're Joe Thomas. You go for it. It could be a whole
And
celebrations box. Why did you say you're just a box of celebrations?
yes, I'm a box of
Just celebrate.
celebrations. Who knows what you're going to get on one day?
But then you count them out and everyone goes, oh, the bounties. And you're like, there's only 5 bounties in a box. There's 20
Oh, I
Snickers
like a
and 20
bounty.
Gallises. I love a bounty. They're my favorite ones.
Love a bounty. That because they're sweet and sort of slightly they stick to your teeth a little bit as well. You know, that kind of like stickiness about it that I really, really like.
And
Uh
do you know what I like about a bounty as well? Is it flakes.
yeah.
Because you've got so many of the desiccated coconut, as soon as you bite into a bounty or a chocolate celebration, that's the Bounty Starlight in Quality Street, you've got the little white kind of almost forest as you go through. If you imagine it, you're going on a journey and you've got all these little flakes and that little pricks that are in the way that you've got to move out the way to keep going.
I like that. I like that. You see, you're there, you're writing your own signature box already.
I know, and I think that's it. When you a bounty, I wish I had a bounty here to show you. But if you open it up, you're like, look how many, and it's not layers; it's like segments, like an orange. Look how many segments in there, and that represents all the different styles of all the characteristics. You know, we talk about friends, and we say, you know, you should have 5 friends, and they all bring out different character personalities of you. That's like what a bounty is. There's so many different layers. There's so many different strands to you, all wrapped up in a chocolate. Oh, I could write this book. Can I do
It's
part two?
amazing.
A recipe for I'll do a recipe for Easter. I'm going to write this. Don't
It's
trademark
amazing
this.
how we use chocolate though, at times when we want to experience life, want to remember it. I mean, actually, in fact, I was talking about this trip that we went on Geneva, and I can still taste the chocolate mousse that we had after the most amazing fondue, and had this chocolate mousse. It was the lightest, loveliest chocolate mousse. And every time I think of it, I'm right back there in that restaurant in Geneva, having a lovely meal with my son. You know, it's I'm right there. So yeah, you know, we'd use it as a celebration. We use it to console as well because it's a comfort. It's amazing the role that chocolate has come to play within our I don't know, in our society, really.
And it's not just chocolate as well. You speak a lot in your book about raclette, and I've been watching TikToks non-stop of I don't know why I just got into this mindset of raclette and going on TikTok. And again, the thing that cheese does, and when you think, oh, and I know this is going to sound really stupid, but I think you'll get it, especially is that I've always wanted to go to somewhere like Lake Como and do a drive, like in the old kind of Keith Floyd, Rick Stein style car, really small car, and just stop in a field and have a cheese baguette with grapes. And I don't know why, don't know where it came from. Actually, I think you've done a cheese baguette. Have you not done a book before where you had cheese baguettes?
Well, I haven't done a cheese book.
Have you
Oh,
done a baguette book?
I've done a short story where she was up a mountain and she got delivered the most gorgeous, smelliest cheese.
I think
Um,
it was that. I mean, I have read
there
all your
is,
books, but it is one of your books. I'm sure it is that it got me thinking, and I'd love to do that on a date. And I don't know where it comes from, but what you're talking about, the roquette, and then the flavors, and then you're going, that moment it takes you back to just because it's so different and yet it's so ordinary. And it's the most basic sandwiches, which are usually the best. You don't want all these poncy things, you just want something that's
no,
really simple and well executed.
like everything in life. It's like, you know, say we're rocking up now to Christmas. And I put up a couple of posts recently because I'm really worried about how stressed people are getting over cranberry sauce and stuffing. And it's like, no, 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 no. You know, your Christmas does not have to roll off the page of a country living magazine, you know. It's about keeping it simple. The simpler it is, the more you will enjoy, the kinder you have to be to yourself. And the raclette and fondue are really simple um, foods, but to be shared. And that's the beauty of them. It's who you're sharing it with. And we were in Geneva, and my son, like, so I would sort of, we'd have a drink, and then I'd go off to bed. And then he met up with some friends out there, and he was going off to some bars and whatever. And the big question out there is people say, so are you raclette or are you fondue? And he met this young lady, and she said, so the big question is, are you raclette or are you fondue? And my son thought about it, and he went, well, I think I might be fondue. She went, we can never be together. That's it, blown. I'm raclette.
I love that. I love that. And also, what you were saying before, the barefoot contestant, Anna Garten, the queen of cooking. I love her. Always says, always make a couple of things and buy a couple of things. And I always buy, if I've got my family over for Friday night dinner and I'm doing a big roast, I'll always buy the red cabbage and the cauliflower cheese, and then I'll do the roast potatoes and the carrots and parsnips. And then you don't have to worry about oven space and whatnot. So, don't feel that you can't go and buy things. Let's turn to
No,
page
you do
61 of your
you.
book. Page
Page six.
61 says, come on, it was only day one. Mozart didn't sit down and write a masterpiece at his first piano lesson. So I want to know about you, Joe. How do you look back at that first book that you ever wrote and the journey you've been on when you went, right, this might not have been the biggest masterpiece, but I had to start somewhere. I just had to get words on a page to begin with.
Yeah, it's exactly that. You decide to learn the piano and you don't just sit down and play Mozart. You've got to learn. You've got to start somewhere. You've got to start with your scales and playing Three Blind Mice or whatever it is. And I started with short stories. It took me 2 years to get short stories published in People's Friend. But eventually, you started to realize what you need to do. And then I think I had 4 attempts at novels before The Oyster Catcher came out. And you're learning all the time. I was asked if by an ebook only publisher if they could publish something of mine. And I had The Oyster Catcher. And I said, oh, you don't want to do that. That's no good. She said, no, come on. I really want to publish it, Joe. So she put it out as ebook only. And I thought, I was rather embarrassed. I went, well, I'll let her have that, and then I'll go and write something much better. And suddenly it started slipping up the charts and went to number 2 in the Amazon charts and sat between 12 Years a Slave and The Book Thief, and that's when it all changed for me. When, the big publishers came in and said, actually, we really like this and we want you to do more. And you go, really? But on the way, you are learning your craft. By this time, I'd written the second book, which was The Olive Branch. So that was ready to go. And I knew, the third book then was Late Summer in the Vineyard. I was going to do a wine book. So you've got to take the steps along the way. You don't just learn to play Mozart overnight, and it can be frustrating, really frustrating with all the rejections. But with every rejection, of course, you're learning something new. I'll do it differently next time. Don't write for anybody else. Write it because it takes you on an adventure. I'm writing now at the moment next winter's book. And I'm just in love with the place. I kind of go back there and, open up the computer, go, oh, I'm back in the front door. Lovely. Write it because it's somewhere that you want to be and that you love being. Don't show it to your friends. There's only, the only other person that matters then is your editor. But that you've written something, because if you don't enjoy it, well, how are your readers going to enjoy it, And you can ask 5 different friends their opinions and you'll get 5 different opinions. And that will just squeeze your melon. So don't do that. Just write the book that you would like to, enjoy. And then, yes, then you have you have your editor who does structural edits with you, your copy editor who's doing all the spelling, and then your proofs before you go to the shelf. But yeah, if I had one piece of advice, write because you enjoy the experience and the place you're going to, whether that's crime or whatever, or whether it's romance. And by the way, lovely to see in the bookseller today that romance is the top of festive fiction reading for Christmas. People want that escape. They want to go, somewhere lovely and have a nice time. So that's fantastic to see. But yeah, definitely write the book for you because you like being there.
I love it. Can you give us a little spoiler? Don't tell me about the story, just tell me country and food, just so we can whet the appetite for next Christmas.
Next Christmas is actually set in West Wales, where I live, and it's a shepherdess next year.
Ooh. Oh, well, we're coming over to you for Christmas dinner next year. Get that door open. I think you should start doing Joe Thomas tours. Here's a free book
Yeah,
and here's a little
they'll be
tour
very
there.
welcome.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that. I love that.
There'll be chicken blankets, there'll be turkey, there's ham. Yeah, so I really want, there's a lot of things going on. Actually, I hadn't realized quite how relevant the book would be when I started writing it, but I wanted to look at British farming
Which obviously
and
we know is a big thing at the moment in the news.
big thing. And how I think we need to get back to understanding where our food comes from and addressing the issue of processed foods and actually going back to keeping things simple. It's what we went back to beginning of this conversation. I mean, look at Spudman on
Mm.
is he on Instagram or is he on
TikTok.
TikTok? He's on TikTok.
And he's
Spud
just a guy who's got a van who sells jack potatoes, cut into three, shove your beans on top, boom. But he's getting 3 hour, 4 hour queues.
Yeah, yeah. And people are going back to a really, really simple dish that's nutritious. You know, it's easy to make. It's the best fast food ever, a jacket potato. So I wanted to go back to actually looking at our food and where it's produced, how it's produced, how we should be supporting our farmers and our food. And also, I wanted to get in there a real bit of street food as well, because street food is great fun. You know, I go to the agricultural shows around here, and my favorite bit, apart from, going into the food marquee and whatever, is the trucks and trailers that turn out, and people are producing fantastic food. Macaroni cheese, from the street food truck, or just all sorts of people are getting really inventive. And we play this daft game around our table. And I always go, okay, what's your street food truck going to be? And we're going to have to go around the table and say, what would you do? What would you do for your street food truck, Johnny?
I would do hot chocolate Baileys with biscuits. I never feel that I don't want cookies. I want biscuits. I want chocolate digestives. I want an oat and raisin cookie. I want a golden crunch cookie. I want Dunkers with my hot chocolate Baileys. And no one does
No.
that. You just get these massive cookies, which are stupid.
And I think you could call it Dunkers.
Yeah, dunk. There we go.
There you go.
Easy.
Dunkers.
There we go. We've done it. We've literally
Yeah.
written a book for Easter and we've sorted out my business plan for next year. It's almost like I was made redundant and have time on my hands. Hmm.
I'm going to be doing platters. Like I want a little bit of cheese, a little bit of cold meat, a bit of ham, an olive, and a glass of rosé.
But do you know
You know,
what? That again, keep it simple. There's
keep
nothing
it
wrong.
simple.
And you go to these, and we all go to these fancy restaurants, and you're like, all I want is just simple food. And there's a place called Fow in London, and it's a very, very gourmet KFC. The most incredible crispy, crispy, crispy chicken, proper chicken. And they do tenders, they do wings, and it's keep it simple but execute it amazingly. And it is I'm still thinking I had it on Saturday night. I'm still thinking about it, and that's it. If you go to somewhere like Fow and you have a posh KFC, and you go and get posh fish and chips, it still takes you to that childhood. We still think about being that child on the beach having fish and chips for the first time with the
Yeah,
picky fault.
yeah.
Keep
In
it
fact,
simple.
I went out for lunch yesterday, and a place around here we have a lot of fish and chips, and the fish was amazing. And this chap next to me was just raving about his piece of fish. I had the beef dinner, local beef, done really beautifully, roast potatoes, mashed potato, just and that's what I just want to keep telling people about Christmas. You don't have to have it rolling off, say the page
Comfort
of
food, always comfort food. Let's turn to page 140 of your book. And
right.
Clara says, am I right hiding here? Hiding from life because everyone thought I was mad to come and do this. I probably am. Too embarrassed to go home. But I have to get this right. I have to show them I deserve to be here. I did the right thing by staying. There's one tutor in particular I want to impress him. So, thinking about you, Joe, who's been the biggest person that you've wanted to impress the most? Is it your husband? Is it an editor? Is it your first publishing house? Who's that one thing that you've gone, I've always wanted their respect? And did you get it from them in the end?
I think I do. I think I know the answer to this one. I have a very, very close friend called Katie Ford, who is also a very well published author. Um, and I loved her books, absolutely loved her books. And I think it was, Katie's books that made me want to write. Then I met Katie and we hit it off straight away. And she became really influential as a mentor to me. And she was a member of the Romantic Novelists Association. In fact, she was the president. and she would run a Katie Ford bursary every year for an up and coming writer. And it took me a good few years, but eventually I got the Katie Ford bursary in 2013, I think it was the year that the Oyster Catcher came out. And that was I sat down and had a good old weep about that one. I got and every time a new book comes out, a copy goes out to her, and I have to wait until she's finished. And when it comes back, then it's like phew, So so we are very close friends, and so every morning we sort of wake up and we start writing at the same time. So we'll be there typing away, and we're talking to each other, going, "You writing? Yeah, I'm writing. Have you had a cup of tea yet? Yeah, I've had a cup of tea." So so we're chatting away, and and then we might go, "Oh, I've got this plot problem. Yeah, I've got this plot problem." Kind of, and we have a little chat about what our plot problems are, and then we go away quite a lot as well, to go on like a writing retreat where she and I will always be the first ones up, and we'd just sit there and work through some plot problems and carry on writing. Then we're both done by about lunchtime, and then it's party time.
I love
So yeah,
that.
the answer is Katie Ford.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, look, your book, Joe, A Recipe for Christmas, is out to go and buy now. Do go and buy it. I love it. And go and buy all her books. I love all her books. She knows I do. Before I let you go, I just want to ask you about Steve Wright, because sadly we lost Steve in March this year. And I still haven't come to terms with it. I was even yesterday morning, I was listening to Sunday Love Songs of Michael Bull, and then suddenly I thought, right, I need to just put that big opening jingle on for 50 seconds and go right into that mindset. And then the summer night shows, 6 episodes last year, literally doing those summer nights covering for Joe Wiley, and then obviously Sunday Love Songs. You worked with Steve, and as we're coming up to a year, which again I just can't get my head around, how are you feeling, and what are the memories that you want to take away with you forever, where you just think of the great man?
Well, it was just a great time. It was a great time. It was a great time when I was in London, and the team was so good. Funnily enough, I just this morning been swapping messages with another team member, and we're all really, really close. And so it was very much a team show, and we worked hard, but we also played very hard as well. I can remember that, and the names, the contacts books that I developed from that time. I can remember one time we had Shirley Bassey coming on, and we might have been a little delayed over our lunch. I think it was coming up for Christmas, and had to rush back to studio where Shirley Bassey was actually waiting for us. But no, they were just great times. He could draw fantastic names to his show. So Lionel Richie was one of my favorites that I met. Just what a lovely man. But huge names. We had Dolly Parton. We had, yeah, great, great names that would come because it was Steve. And as I say, it was very much a team show, and that's the feeling that came across in the program.
And we'll never have a program like that ever again. And it's in a period of time that will never be forgotten. And I just hope that everyone who wants to get into radio goes back and listens to those episodes of those shows. And what was the biggest lesson you learned from him?
I think working in radio in general actually was a really big lesson for me as to where I am now in my writing career, because you couldn't not have a guest for that slot, on whatever day. You didn't just say, "Oh, well, don't worry, I'll come back and, or we'll leave it for this week." When you're working on daily programs or whatever, you have to have secured an interview for that slot and work until whatever time it takes to get that ready for the next day. And that's I worked on daily shows in Radio Wales. And you can't just say, "Oh, sorry, I can't think of anything." You have to think of something and then make it better. And that's was a really big lesson for me in learning how to write novels, which is get something down, get something on the page, and then make it better.
Okay, I might need to take your advice. When you're currently watching or listening, it is Christmas Eve. I'm producing Boxing Day, a 3-hour radio show, and let's just say the 11th hour is currently empty and needs to be filled at some point. And if the presenter's watching or listening to this, yeah, half your running order has not been done yet. It might be done. It might be, we'll see. It's Boxing Day. Let's just see. Joe Thomas, your book, A Recipe for Christmas, is out to go and buy now. Do go and buy it. I love her books. There's so many interviews that we've done together in the library, but I love these books so much. So do go and buy that. And then next summer, you'll have another Joe Thomas book. And next Christmas, you'll have another one. And it never ends because she's the
Oh,
best author. Go on, go on. Go on. Spoiler alert. Go on.
yeah, next summer it's pasta and it's Nonna Wars.
Oh, have you not done an Honor Wars before? Not Nonna, Grandma. Didn't you have wasn't the cake one? Two rival sisters,
I've had nonnas
grandmas or something.
before. I've had nonnas in the pizzeria,
That's it.
but this is full on Nonna Wars.
Right, so I'm going to take you to, I can't remember what it's called, but in Notting Hill, there's a restaurant, and it's a pasta restaurant. And they fly the nonnas over, and then you see them in the front of the restaurant cooking, and then they deliver pasta. Amazing pasta, amazing. Joe, thank you so much. You've been watching or listening to Sukuninski. Merry Christmas to you. If you enjoyed today's episode, give a 5-star rating, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and let's keep spreading the word. It's okay to not be okay. To see previous interviews I've done, Secure the Insecure podcast on Instagram, on TikTok at Johnny Seifert 92 is where you can find them. There's loads of teasers. Karen Swan was on yesterday with her Christmas book, and let's keep these book clubs coming for next year as we keep saying it's okay to not be okay. I'm Johnny Seifert. Thanks so much for watching or listening. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.